I have a few confessions to make. I don't own a fancy hand-thrown ceramic yarn bowl. I don't have a wall of 50 project bags. And my stitch markers, they're not cute. They're not fancy handcrafted stitch markers that we see all over Instagram. Today I want to talk about my realist approach to knitting tools. Now, I will preface this to say that I am not a total minimalist. I have things. I have a lot of things, but everything on this table in front of me today, it all earns its keep. Let's talk about needles first, because this is where I deviate from extreme minimalists. I don't just use one tool for everything. I believe in having the right tool for each job. So right now I have two go-to interchangeable sets. I have a wooden set that I use when I need more grip or I'm just using a slippery yarn. I have an interchangeable lantern moon set that works beautifully. On the other hand, I have a really nice set of metal needles. This is what I use when I'm looking for speed because they're slicker, they're fast. For me, right now, 2 sets is all I need. I don't need the latest techie, gimmicky needle. I don't need the latest needles in different colors. Not to say that I haven't fallen for that in the past, but for me, really kind of honing in on the needles that work best for me is what I lean into. When it comes to the little things though, this is where I refuse to spend money. Now, this is not to say that I don't every once in a while find a progress keeper that really speaks to me and I want it. I still do indulge in those things. But as for stitch markers, I just use regular old, the little light bulb locking stitch markers. I have a pouch of them. I have a couple knitting pouches that I keep in my knitting bags that have, simple things like snips, but I keep stitch markers in these. So I know they're boring. I know they're not cute, but they don't add weight to my project. They don't snag my yarn. They just simply work. I found in my personal experience that using the really cute ones actually made knitting harder because they got in the way more than necessary. The other really basic tool that I use is a humble ruler. Now, I use a humble ruler. I do have a sock ruler from Katrinkles that I love. Obviously, these two things don't travel really well. So I have used random objects. I know that from one joint to the next joint on my finger is an inch, so I can measure fabric that way. But I tend to just use a basic ruler. And guys, I don't even know where I got this. I mean, it has Bible verses on it, which if you know me, no. But it works. It's easy to slide down, measure in something. And again, I do love the Katrinkles. But I don't have fancy gauge rulers for swatches. Seriously, a simple tape measure is really all that I require. So if I'm not using a tape measure when I'm out and about, I'm just using a regular old ruler at home. Now let's talk about storage. We all know the people that are like collectors of project bags. They've got like 100 of them. That's not me. And I won't say that I am a total minimalist. Like I don't have just a handful of bags that I use. I have plenty of bags. I probably have more project bags than I realistically need or use. But I do have a handful of favorites that I consistently use for the projects on hand. The ones that are in my current works in project rotation. If you saw my whip video a couple weeks ago, you know that I have a lot of whips and a lot of whips in one bag. So I'm not heavy on the bags. I do find myself gravitating away from the really cute cloth bags. I know that some people like to change them seasonally, and that's great. I do find myself kind of gravitating towards the sturdier leather or fake leather bags that begin to sort of pass as a pocketbook or purse. The other thing is yarn bowls. Y'all, this is a yarn bowl from Yarn Valet. The little guide that the yarn feeds through is broken off. I got this free in a subscription box. I've never deviated. I think you can see where just the other day the dogs knocked over my coffee and it got on the outside and I haven't wiped it off yet. It has a suction cup on the bottom. It's really realistic. For me, having a gorgeous ceramic yarn bowl is just not in the mix. I have 4 dogs that like to be in my lap, and sometimes they're competing to be in my lap, and it's just not conducive. I would cry if I owned a really nice yarn bowl and it broke because of some accident. The other thing that I like to use, it's not really being used for that right now, is if I have more than one skein for a yarn bowl, I'm using a bread basket, essentially, because I can put a couple of skeins in here and do color work. It works out brilliantly. So that's what I use. Simple bowls, bread basket, keeps my yarn from rolling around, but at the same time, I don't have to risk something breaking. For me, my knitting is more about the fabric and the story in that knit, not so much the fancy tools and gadgets. For me, it's about that tactile experience of feeling the wool in my hand. For me, it's not about curating some sort of aesthetic for social media. So I've just learned that when I strip away the pressure of having the latest and greatest tools and cute things for the sake of having those things, I actually enjoy my knitting more. I'd really love to know, what do you have in your knitting toolbox that is really basic and you just refuse to upgrade as well? Let me know down in the comments. If you're new to this video and you liked this content, I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel, give it a thumbs up, and until next time, friends, happy making.